Well, hello everybody. It's PL Stuart here, and with Steve Talks Books on page chewing once more. It seems like we just finished an episode, but we're back. This is Jam Pack June. We've dubbed this Jam Pack June, where we're gonna have quite a few of these episodes and keep you on your toes with some fantastic guests. This evening, afternoon, we are honored to have two phenomenal writers in Thiago Abdalla and A.J. Rettger. So welcome, gentlemen. Very happy to have you on Page Chewing. I'd just like you to, perhaps introduce yourself and tell us a bit about what you write, how things are going.
I'll let Thiago go first.
Okay. Sure. So, I've only been a writer for like a published writer for 3 months. So this is all still kind of new to me. But I'm Thiago Abdalla. I am Brazilian. We can talk about how Brazilian knows how to speak English. But yeah, I'm the author of A Touch of Light. I'm not prepared, but okay.
Right.
Here you go. You might. I should, because the cover is more recognizable than the than the title, I think, or my name. So yeah. It's the first book in a planned 4-book series called The Ashes of Averin. I have also released a prequel novella, which is the digital version is free for my newsletter, my mailing list subscribers. It actually came out Tuesday this week. I do not have a physical copy because I live in Brazil and shipping, so it's gonna still take maybe a couple of weeks to get here. But yeah, I'm super excited to be here. I'm excited to talk.
I'm A.J. Rettger. I'm the author of Oathbreaker, and my next book, Season of Kings, which is the start of a whole new series, comes out July 1st. And I write like grimdark fantasy, and I try to go as dark and as twisted as I possibly can. So
I can attest to that.
Yeah.
Sure, Steve can too.
Sold me already.
Yeah. Fact check true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I am. If I may divulge, I'm actually Thiago's work is definitely on my TBR. Although I don't want to spoil things here. Thiago will talk about that, I'm sure, later. But his book's also entered in this current SBFBO self-published fantasy blog off version number 8. I'm one of the judges with Before We Go blog, where Steve and I are both bloggers. So who knows? I may get to read Thiago's book, at some point if it makes it to the finals. So you never know.
Yeah.
So,
I hope you do. Yeah, because that means I got to the finals. Yeah.
Exactly. And AJ's book, Oathbreaker, wow, it's just awesome. It's a ride, man. That's a ride. And I am very humbled and privileged and honored that he provided me with an arc of his upcoming book, Season of Kings. I was just saying before we went live here that I'm deep into now. It's like, man, it is like there's no predictability there. Don't get attached to anybody because they're probably not going to make it. So
yeah. It was a joy to write that book. I mean, I was like, yeah, let's try and I did Oathbreaker. I was like, all right, this is the next book. Let's see if I can kick it up a notch and try and build on my strengths.
It's a new series, right?
Yeah, brand new series. It's set in the same world, just like a couple generations before the events in Oathbreaker. So, I mean, like the magic system, but I don't really dive into the magic in the first book is all, but it's all basically the same rules in my head. So readers don't have to get to it, but
awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great stuff, man. Yeah, you guys are. I when I was putting out a tweet about the fact that Steve and I were having you on, it's like, yeah, these are two really up and coming, really hot on the scene writers. That in the fantasy world. I know, Thiago, I've seen the cover of one of your books. I believe you have a blurb endorsement from Mark Lawrence. Isn't that correct?
I do.
Wow.
Man, I was so fortunate to get to know Mark. When I was kind of starting just really starting out. I haven't even launched my book. I was getting into the community, and I saw Mark had a Discord, so I jumped into his Discord. It's part of his Patreon. You know, one of the perks is just access to his Discord, and we started talking, and you know, he's super supportive. Uh, I keep saying I'm really fortunate, but you know, I everyone that's there is just Mark just gives us so much time, and I don't know, you probably maybe talked to him a few times because of Spliffable, but he's just, man, he writes super fast, and I think that goes really under the radar. You know, he's always kind of like ahead and ready to publish a new book every year. So he's always working, you know, and the fact that he has time for us is really insane. And we kind of formed a really cool group there. They're a few other authors. It's not only authors, it's a bunch of people who talk about his books, but you know, I've made some really good friends there, that are either, you know, writing stuff to publish or have published. So we're kind of starting this trip together, I guess. And you know, one day Mark just he I don't know what he said in the Discord. He was like, I think he just asked a question about one of the chapters, and my instant reaction was, "You're reading it?" It was so yeah. And then, you know, he read it. He reviewed it on Goodreads, and man, I'm just so grateful to everything that you know, he's all the attention that we get from him, because he's been awesome. He's been awesome. So yeah, I can't talk, you know, about Mark Lawrence enough. He's great. He's the exception to the don't meet your heroes rule, I'd say. He's really cool.
Yeah, isn't it funny how, you know, when you start off, I'm not sure if you all feel this way, bloggers, writers, all of us in running community. When you start off, you know, especially in social media, you're starting the void and no one really knows you and no one knows who you are. And then you start making these connections bit by bit, and these people who you idolize and look up to, and you realize they're just like you. You know, they've gone through a lot of the same tribulations. They experience a lot of the same issues and positives in writing community. And it just depends on, at the end of the day, you know, it comes down to things like, you know, we're all just human beings, all trying to, you know, make connections and all trying to get our work out there, whether we're creative, like podcasters, bloggers, YouTubers like Steve, or writers like the three of us. And it comes down to the only difference between all of us is, you know, a subscriber count or a sales count, right?
Yeah.
You know, so that's
Yeah.
typically what it comes down to. So,
Yeah.
you know, we have people like AJ, and AJ, you know, is he does that double duty, which I really commend, where he has his own, you know, a podcast where he features and interviews authors. I was honored to be on it, and he's had some really big authors on there, Anthony Ryan, etc. You know, like he's really had some phenomenal guests, and you know, and I think we're all doing so much in our own little way and collectively, as in terms of our community, to contribute to each other's success. And that's one of the things that, you know, I really think I think that's just phenomenal that I love about it.
Yeah, I mean, like I grew up in the music scene. Like I played in bands, go to shows. I was a big music guy, and those scenes, it's like, at least where I come from, it was very cutthroat. It was very like, people are like, oh yeah, you had a good show, but they kind of just like, I kind of hope you fail, because we want to be the next headliner, we want to be the next big band or whatever. And the writing community is totally different. People like just boost each other and completely help lift each other up, and they're like, oh yeah, I'll totally come on your podcast or your show or whatever. And like, it's just, or like, oh, like when I asked PL to read Season of Kings for me, he was, absolutely, I'll do it. Like I was like, I didn't think anyone would want to read an ARC of my book. So I was like, oh man, it's absolutely mind-boggling. So like, it's just so supportive, and it just really blew me away. I'm glad I'm part of the community.
You know what's awesome about that? The community is actually built to be supportive, in my opinion, because even if you're selfish, even if you don't want to, if you're like, no, you gotta talk about my book or no one else's, if you support other authors, you're kind of helping yourself, because when people buy those authors' books, they're gonna be attached to you, and on Amazon, you're gonna appear in their also bots as well. If they bought your book and they buy another author's book, so you're helping yourself. You're helping your book to be seen by more people. So even if you didn't want to support people, just to support people, it's kind of like the system is built in a positive way that kind of incentivizes authors to help each other.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that's not the reason you should be supportive, and I think it isn't the reason why people are supportive. But even if you didn't want to be, you're helping yourself if you're supporting other people. So yeah.
Like, that's the one thing about the book community, is that like the bigwigs, so to speak, like, again, from the music background, the bigwigs are totally inaccessible. You can't reach them. Whereas like Mark Lawrence and like Anthony Ryan and another one I had on that's big traditionally published is Nicholas Eames, author of Kings of the Wild. They're all like, yeah, for sure, I'll totally like talk to you or read your book or come on your show or whatever. And it's awesome. I just never thought like, oh my God, I'm talking to like the big guys in the genre. I never thought that'd be, never thought that would happen.
Yeah, Steve, I guess you have this kind of the same experiences with, you've had some really huge YouTubers, the Jimmy Nuts of the world. Like you interact on. So in your kind of side of the house, you've also obviously had a lot of really high profile, YouTubers, especially that you've interact. How was that? How's that experience been?
It's been 99% positive. I think for the booktubers I've invited, because I thought I wouldn't even get a response, but all of them have been really kind and really generous with their time. I've only had one no from an author, so I'm doing pretty good. So no complaints. But I think I've had, I'm up to 60 or 70 now. So
wow, yeah,
those are very good odds, and everyone's been really great. Just a very little. I've only had a couple of weird experiences, but for the most part, it's all been very positive and lots of fun.
Yeah. Well, it's a reflection of real life, right? The online social community is a reflection of real life. 99% of people, hey, you're going to have these really positive interactions with, and and then there's that percent. And then we're not talking about the trolls and the bots and the scammers and that stuff. But, in general, I'd like to say that this, I can certainly definitively say that Reddit community is just a fantastic, supportive, amazing place to be. I actually wrote an article about that. A.J. and I have shared in the past, the same independent publishing company, Friesen Press, and actually I wrote an article about they asked me to write an article about just what that experience is like and what's some keys to success. And I said, yeah, just being kind, and exactly as Thiago said it, you pay it forward and you get associated with more people, and your book comes up and on their Amazon feed, and that sells your book, and it's just this this symbiotic thing where it's all positive. So nothing but great things to say about that. So
I mean, like one thing I discovered since doing like my own show, I'm sure maybe Steve can attest, and you as well, PL, as you're starting to do these page chewings with him, is that authors aren't the stigma that I had the stereotypical idea of an author, a recluse, a guy who doesn't like to talk, who just sits over his computer and writes in the books. But then once you actually get talking to authors, like, oh man, they're very sociable. Like they really want to talk. I've never had an author's like give me one word answers or just not want to answer anything. Like it's just like, okay, like kind of the trick is to kind of get them to shut up after every once in a while so you can ask the next question.
Yeah. Well, I think authors can comment on like everything because their mind's always working with words, I guess. So there's so many like different voices in our minds, and we always want to put it out there. I don't know.
Yeah. I think especially. Sorry, go ahead, Thiago. Sorry.
No. I was just gonna say that as readers, we sometimes have this view of authors as well, that it's like, oh, they're inaccessible because they did this big thing that's writing a book, right? And then once you actually sit down and write a book, you see that. I mean, I'm gonna mention Discord a lot because I'm like, I really like interacting with people on Discord. But I'm on another server on Discord, the SFF Oasis, and I remember when I just jumped on there, a lot of people were like, I'm a little intimidated to talk to you authors because there are a lot of authors on there, and they do it in a way that's really cool, that you have your role. So kind of, when you get assigned your role, the color of your name changes. So people kind of know who are the authors there, and who are, the booktubers and the bloggers, and some readers are just like, I get kind of intimidated sometimes. I check my my messages before I send them like 3 times, and I was like, man, I'm not this wordsmith that the people seem to think authors are. I'm nothing. My editor, maybe, I'm nothing without my editor, but we're just people who kind of studied it a bit, or crazy enough to say maybe I can do this as well. So yeah, it's really funny once you get on the other side of things, and just see how easy it is to be kind of stuck with an image, and it's but the community breaks that. I think the book community really breaks that, because it's just easy to be accessible, I think. So
Yeah, I agree. I particularly think with that stigma certainly is being eradicated, specifically because of indie authors. Like we're, as an independent author, we're happy when someone says, hey, like, I really liked your book. Hey, would you like to come on my podcast? Hey, like we're so, and we don't, because a lot of us are unagented, and a lot of us, we're so wrapped up in the overall community. I think our approach is very much, we want to really engage with our audience and our readership. We want to engage with other authors. We're always looking for a new information. Hey, I have this question about cover design. Maybe ask AJ. Hey, I have this question about Amazon and print. I asked Thiago. Where like I asked Steve something. Like we're, because of the nature of our business, right? Especially because for the indie side, we don't have traditional publishing houses to do a lot of this stuff for us. We're always relying on each other for information, for knowledge sharing, and things like that. And I think it's just part and parcel with how accessible we are to everybody, not just our readers, but to other authors, to booktubers, to it's really I think it's a really good thing. So, but
yeah.
questions.
And Jonathan's here. Hey, Jonathan. Hello, gentlemen. Use that term loosely.
Hi, everyone.
He's here.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Alicia. Thanks for coming by. And it's okay. You're not late. Sorry, I'm late. So, AJ, with your second book, what were the biggest differences in that journey? What did you learn from Oathbreaker that you implemented in the next book?
You need a likable main character, because a lot of people didn't like Mario, and I realized, because like I get it. I mean, he's a little bit whiny at times, and he's kind of makes incredibly bad decisions over and over again. So, I mean, I try to have a little bit more competent main characters, and I think hopefully I hit the mark with that. And then I think the first chapter, I just decided to go grimdark as grimdark. I was like, PL's nodding his head. So I'm like, yeah, I try to get that as dark as I possibly could and really set the tone. Because Oathbreaker was very much like, it starts off as a classic fantasy novel, and then like around chapter 4, I think it takes the turn to grimdark. And I knew some readers commented and sent me messages saying I didn't like how it changed the vibe. So I tried to really make it clear cut. This is the type of book that you're going to get yourself into with the first chapter.
Pedal to the metal right away.
Yeah, just kind of really throw them into the deep end and see if you like it, you like it. If not, well, then at least you only read like 7 pages, and then
no harm, no foul, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Kay.
So regarding you both essentially have 2 books out, so maybe we can get you both to essentially give us a little bit of an elevator pitch about both your books, kind of what they're about, and So the readers that don't know as much perhaps about your writing get a little taste. So
Okay.
You can start, AJ.
Okay.
Yep.
So the first book was Oathbreaker. It follows this knight who's like, I guess, a knight in training when we first meet him, and then he basically graduates to the top of his class in school, and they say, hey, in order to become a full-fledged knight, you have to complete your first deed. He's like, perfect, I can do anything, I'm the shit, I'm great. He goes off and immediately realizes the world is not, rescuing damsels and slaying dragons. It's a lot more gritty, darker than that, and he's very naive. And then throughout the book, he just falls into one mess into another, and he kind of relies on his compatriots and his companions to bail him out time and time again. And eventually, like at the end of the book, he kind of gets his own autonomy, makes his own decision. And, I don't want to give anything away, but he makes his decision. And then Season of Kings, the next book that's out in July, follows three protagonists. There's Grimm, there's Anna, and Albert. And all of them are different. All of them are very... Like Grimm is very, I guess, survival instincts because where he finds himself in the situation. Like, again, I don't want to get so hard to like give an elevator pitch without giving anything away, especially for that book, because I feel like a lot of threads are right at the very beginning and then they get taken away, and I kind of want to keep the curveballs. But yeah, he's a legendary warrior, and he's accused of heinous crimes, and he has to try and clear his name. Anna is raised in the woods with her father, and if something comes and disrupts her life, and she has to go flee into the city and actually socialize with people for the first time in her very young life. And then there's Albert, who basically is thrown into the throne room and has become king after his father's death, and is trying to navigate how to be king when everyone kind of wants him disposed.
Awesome.
So that was a very long elevator pitch, but that was probably several floors going up and down the skyscraper. But
great stuff.
Cool. Both of my books are in the same series. One's a full-length novel. It's A Touch of Light. It's called A Touch of Light, but I tell people to focus on the touch part because it's only a touch. It's actually, I think, kind of dark. The quote that gave the book its title is, that's the thing about light, all you need is a touch to see the horrors lurking in the dark. So that kind of, I think, sets the tone of what the book's about. And it follows three main characters. Two of them live in the domain, which is kind of a union of nations who all follow a religion. And this religion has declared war on death, basically. So death is a sin. If you die, it's because the goddess considered you unworthy, and you shouldn't be mourned, you shouldn't be remembered, you shouldn't be talked about ever again. So they do this because they believe death is what drove their goddess, called the Seraph, away from their land, and they're trying to bring her back. So yeah, the church has a lot of power. It's got politics. One of these two characters is actually one of the elite church warriors who are Griffin riders, and they have this bond with the Griffin, and the magic system is based on that. They can kind of pull strength from the Griffin, and in return for an emotion. So basically, they have this emotion that they feed to the Griffin, and then they pull strength or speed from their Griffins. And they're super scary because they're the only ones who are allowed to kill in this religion. So people are scared of them. That's one of the characters. The other character is a prince in one of these nations, and he's just struggling to kind of revive his loved ones, because it's said that when the goddess returns, a select few people who died actually can be kept by the church, and they can be revived. So his path is basically trying to show that the person who wants to revive is worthy. And then there's a whole other culture called the clans, and these are outside the domain. They're a lot more primal, and they actually believe almost the opposite. They believe that life has to be returned to the earth, so you need death. because they believe in this dead goddess that will come out of the earth if you don't keep feeding her life. So they're actually, on the opposite side of the scale, and things won't work out between both of them. So yeah, and among all of this happening, a kind of weird disease that makes people feral starts to spread, and it's kind of like the worst thing that could happen to the domain because it's death inside of the domain. So the characters in the domain are trying to solve that, while the other character, Nasha, I didn't even say their names right. The prince is called Adrian. The Sentinel, the other character within the domain, is called Lynn, and the character from the clans is called Nasha. So yeah, Nasha is just trying to fit into the clan. She has struggles of her own. The world there also isn't kind of safe. Parts of it are starting to wither away, so they're scared that the goddess might be trying to escape from within the earth, and they're trying to see what they can do. So yeah, sorry if that was too long-winded, but it is, I always tell people it is a sprawling epic fantasy. There are a lot of characters and plenty of cultures and nations and stuff like that. Don't think it gets to Malazan levels, but I was talking to Mark about this. I think I wrote a semi Malazan by mistake. Because I wasn't actually aiming for that, but stuff just started to grow and grow and grow, and suddenly I had this big world and a ton of cultures. So yeah, and then the other book is a prequel novella to Touch of Light. It actually focuses on Adrian, this domain prince. Oh yeah, and I forgot this because I'm awesome at elevator pitches. I forgot one of the most important aspects of the world, which is the faithful in the domain. They live by the blessings of the seraph, and they actually can live really long lives, like hundreds of years. So this prequel is set 100 years before, and it's the same character. It's one of the POVs that you get in the Touch of Light, because they're part of their religion, and they've been given this long life. So this one follows his relationship with a nation that's kind of like their rival, but he's actually in love with the princess of this nation. So a reviewer from FanFi, Neil, said, I think he said it best. He said it's like Romeo and Juliet meets Pirates of the Caribbean meets Lord of the Rings. So it's kind of like those three things kind of mixed together. And yeah, I think that's a good way to describe it. It gives a little more depth into the past of one of the characters, while also kind of creating a little bit more mystery that's going to be explored in future books of the series. But I do agree with most of the people who've reviewed it, who say it's a better starting point because it's a little more contained. So imagine if Malazan had kind of a little novella that introduces you to the world and explains a little bit, and already gives you a POV for you to be comfortable with, and then you can jump into Gardens of the Moon and at least know a little bit more what's going on. So yeah, it's kind of like a cool little path to just keep things under your thumb, I guess. So yeah, I don't know if my building was taller than AJ's, the elevator going up and down, but
Wow, those both sounds awesome. I'm out of the loop because I only started Mazan, and Steve is a big he's reading all the Eric's and stuff now. AJ, have you read Mazan? Have you read it?
No, I'm scared of it because it's very long and they're very big books. And but I plan to get to them eventually. It's just when finding time.
Yeah, I plan to get
actually only read the first one as well, because it's on my eternal TBR, but just when I'm writing I can't read, so and I'm always writing, so my reading is on pause a lot of the time. I take a lot of time to actually finish books after I started writing, so yeah, I haven't read a lot of it either.
Yeah, those sound awesome. Oh, Andreas.
Andreas is here. Andreas. And Jonathan says Slay's level 1 hog for easy XP. I think he's referring to nothing was easy. It's not with Mario and Oathbreaker.
Yeah.
The Library of Alexandria is here. Touch of Light. Let's go.
Oh yeah, man. I actually want to just give a quick shout out to Alan because he was the first YouTuber who kind of put my book on the map. He picked it up on a whim from that galley, and he actually recorded a review for a launch day. So that was just awesome. Yeah.
Yes. And, Alicia says I have the novella today. I'm excited to start.
Cool.
How much do a question for you three authors? How much do video reviews or booktube content? How much does that help with getting the word out there?
Man, in my opinion, it helps a lot. I think a ton of people are on YouTube, and there are just huge channels like Daniel Green. He reviewed Zamil's book, Zamil Actor, like a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, and he just immediately shot up to top best-selling lists on Amazon. So, I think that helps a lot. But even it doesn't have to be Daniel Green. The booktube community is just awesome, and every like video that you get, I think, helps people to find out who you are. It's like putting it on the speakers and saying, look, this book exists, because I've always had this. I'm sorry if I'm talking too much. I'm making AJ's point. That authors you need to shut up authors sometimes. So shut me up whenever you, because I get excited. But the weird thing about marketing isn't that people don't want to buy your book most of the time. I think it's that people don't know you exist.
Mm-hmm.
So booktube is a huge avenue to show people that you exist and that you've written a book, and people see the cover. And I think there's that kind of study that people need to see something 7 times before they click on it. So every little bit just kind of helps, even if it's just someone just showing your book on a book haul. People start to know you exist. You start to become kind of more like a known factor, or comfortable in their minds, and eventually they'll hopefully check your book out. So yeah, I think it helps a lot.
Yeah, it definitely helps so much to get just any exposure is good exposure. I mean, even if it's a negative review, obviously we don't want that. But I mean, I know so many people who are like, oh, I bought this book because so-and-so said they hated it and I needed to check it out for myself. So, I mean, it helps. And then just again, I know because in the next week or so, because I've been fighting with Amazon about covers for Season of Kings to meet their requirements. I think I got it sorted out now. Later this week, I'm planning to send it out to booktubers and email booktubers and be like, hey, do you want an physical advanced reader copies? Because it's just so much. It helps, like Thiago said, like when you can see the cover of the book on the channel and you can see the quality of the print and all that. It makes so much of a difference, and people it lends you a little bit of authenticity that you're not just some guy with Microsoft Word who just printed off ramblings.
Yeah.
I can't overstate how important booktubers are, and we talk about this several podcasts through page chewing. Our guests have either voiced it themselves or concurred that, especially during the pandemic, I think we realized that when physical book fairs and conventions, things like that were shut down, booktubers, a lot of booktube channels started during the pandemic because people were cooped up and they wanted to do something. They wanted to express themselves. They wanted, an outlet. And we got some amazing booktubers that started up then. Obviously, we had a lot of previously. And yeah, I mean, if you look at the way book reviews are done now, obviously there's lots of bloggers that only communicate their reviews in written form. I understand that. Obviously, I'm a blogger, and I all my reviews are written through the wonderful Before I Go blog, led by the awesome Beth Tabler. But someone like Steve, I mean, right now I'm really humbled. Like Steve has my book. There are friends that are like, that's like someone's looking at it saying, okay, well, the guy actually has a book, as AJ said, as Thiago said, right? It's not just so it actually exists, and it's all about your brand. I think a lot of great books don't sell because they're not marketed as effective as they could be. And there's books that perhaps aren't as strong that really have great sales. And I'm not saying that there aren't a lot of great authors that don't have great sales. I'm just saying that I think marketing really is that link to if you want to grab that audience and have that exposure and rise with awareness. It's all about like you said, putting your name out there and doing things like this, right? Your branding, having identifiable things like okay, for me, when you see me on interviews, it's I have my swag on, and the swag matches the book, and it's all part of their brand, right? So and as you both mentioned, letting people get to know who you are, letting them see the unfiltered you, just talking to people and what your thought processes are and your viewpoints and how you interact with people, and yeah, that's all part of it. So it's all part of the marketing. So, and it's scary because you're putting yourself out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it can be scary sometimes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You take a risk, right? People may not like you. People may turn people off, but you do your best, right? So.
And sorry, so you go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just gotta say that PL touched on a really important point, which is getting people getting to know who you are, because sometimes an author is nothing more than just like that smug looking photo that you have at the back of the book, which is just basically kind of like par for the course, I guess, for authors to, and mine's super smug, you can see in the video, but the thumbnail, but once you get to talk to those people, you see they aren't scary, they're just like cool people, and I think it actually helps to do your marketing and even sell your book sometimes, just see that it's written by someone who's like just relatable. And I think that's even a big part of Brandon Sanderson's, brand, is just that he's relatable, he's approachable.
Yeah, and again, like I'm going to bring it back to the music scene because that's what I grew up with. There's a guy who's in a metal band, Lorna Shore, Will Ramos. He's just, I mean, when you listen to this music, if anyone's a metalhead listening or watching, he just sounds like the devil as he's screaming into the microphone for like 3 minutes and 45 seconds every song. And then you watch him interview and he's just the most relatable nerd on the planet. Like, man, I love this band because he's just like super relatable now. Like you just say, I feel like I've grown up with the kid. Right. So it's just, I think it's the same thing with authors. When you go on booktubers, you just feel like, hey, I kind of know this guy now. I know he's about, they're good people.
And A.J, were you fighting with Amazon because of the type of cover you wanted? Because I know you had some trouble with that with Oathbreaker. Was the cover something? Was it too violent again, or was it something else that?
No, it was just the dimensions were all off, and then of course, I mean, I hired a cover artist, and then everything I tried to fix it myself just made it worse. It just stretched it and blurred it, and I'm like, okay, I gotta bother my cover artist again. And like 3 months later, I'm like, hey, can you fix this? I'm so sorry. I sent them Amazon's, criteria. And thankfully, Matt Barnes, he was just absolutely like, he's such a good guy to work with. And I think he was recommended by Zach Argyle, who wrote Voice of War, for anyone listening. And
great guy. Zach's a fantastic
guy. Zach's an amazing guy.
Amazing guy.
And he does a lot for the book community too. And he's kind of my go-to guy when I have questions like, who's your editor? Who's your narrator for your audiobook? Who's your this? Who's your that? I usually just message Zach, and I'm sure he's sick of me by hearing from me now every now and then, but he doesn't seem to mind. Hasn't said anything yet.
It says, thank you, PL. I received your book today.
Oh my gosh, I'm so honored. Alicia. That's so honored. I hope you enjoy it. Was that, I'm going to guess, was my friend over here, he did a thing, and,
actually, no, that wasn't me.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm honored. Then thank you, Alicia. I'm honored that you got it. So thank you. I hope you enjoy the read.
Nice.
I do gotta say, like I got the audiobook of PL's book, Drowned Kingdom, and just because it's hard for me to find time to actually read, but I have a half-hour commute to work and back every day, so I mean I can hammer out a chapter or 2 chapters every day. And PL, your writing style is so unique, and it just immediately drawed me in when I listened to it. I was like, "Holy crap!
Oh,
Like this,
well,
this
nice.
is like this is something I've never like heard of it before." It's just, it was so unique. It was kind of like Anna Smith Spark. Like when you listen to read her, she's just a very unique, distinct voice, and like yours is the exact same. I'm like, holy crap! Like this, I know. Like if I picked up someone was to read me from a line, I'd be able to pick that's a PL Stuart book. Like,
Well, I'm humble. I'm honored, man. That
yeah.
as you guys know, when YouTubers and fellow authors say kind things about your work, that's you have this
Yeah.
moment, right? Like, and obviously, I can, I haven't, although I haven't read Thiago's work, it was on my TBR long before, he got to SBO. But AJ is like, I said this in my review about AJ's book, Oathbreaker, the first one and I'm in the middle of reading. The second one, as I said, like he has that Abercrombie vibe. Like, this is a guy with immense talent, and I can't wait to see where he's going to take it. So, it's dark as all get out. It's yeah. Steve, you will enjoy Season of Kings. It is, it's dark.
The only thing I think I fail of, like when you like again, like I'm just absolutely humbled when I'm compared to Abercrombie. The only thing I know I don't measure up 100% is his humor. Like Joe, he's able to sprinkle in jokes here and there, and I'm like, I wish I could do that, but I can't. So I'm just gonna kill a character because I'm frustrated.
Humor is probably the hardest thing to do in
It is
all kinds of writing. So yeah.
It's so subjective. Like I had a good conversation on my channel with Nicholas Eames about this, and he was just like, yeah, like it's really hard. And he's just like, for some reason, like people just get his humor when he told jokes. They just landed. And I think it takes courage to put a joke in your book because because there's nothing worse when you read a passage from another author's book and then they say, and everyone laughed. And you're thinking, did they though? Because like it's just nothing really funny happened. But then to actually read a book and laugh along with the characters is such a special talent that unfortunately I do not have. But
yeah, I'm with you, man. I have officially embraced dad jokes because I know I'm not funny, so I just live off dad jokes because I have fun with them. So yeah,
I think in my books it's all about my character's really mean and snarky and privileged, so his jokes are cutting, biting. He's cutting people up. Usually you're taking them apart, so that's the humor. It's not nice, but that's who the character is. So that's where you'll find the humor in my book, where he's usually, poking not so nice fun at somebody else. So, I want to ask both of you. Like I know, again, I consider you both these, huge up and coming writers, and you go on Twitter and all these social media, you hear people talking about both your books, right? And I think that's part of what it kind of SBFBO specifically, and we've all been involved in one way or another. Like it's this hype machine, right? And like you, but you see it beyond SBFBO. You see it on social media where people are talking about this book or talk about this book, like, and so I had a moment just recently where this. I mean, one of my idols was saying positive things in my book, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's I was blown away." Right? So you have that fan person moment, that fanboy moment. Like, what are some of your fanboy moments? Like, maybe in terms of Mark Lawrence or you, AJ. Like, what was your moment? Like, oh my gosh, I'm talking to so and so, or so and so said something great about my book, or something happened where you had an interaction. Like, wow.
Well, for me is like anytime anyone says anything positive about my book, I'm like, because again, like I started being an author. I think I've told Steve this story, and maybe you as well, PL, that I started writing Oathbreaker without any idea. Like I had no ambition to publish it. I was like, yeah, this is just something for fun in my basement while I'm in isolation. And basically, I showed a couple people on Reddit. They said, you should try and publish it. It's really good. It's strong. So I did. Took it to Friesen Press. They edited the hell out of it and fixed all my typos and grammar mistakes and comma splices. And people just said very nice things about it. I was like, this means so much that, my mad ramblings on my 300-page rambling was people actually cared about it. And then, but like my big fanboy moment was definitely when I got Anthony Ryan on my show and I was able to talk to him, because like that was huge, because like he was a big influence. I mean, I'm still trying to track down Andrew Sapkowski, because like he's my big guy, but he's not on any social media. So it's very hard for me to get in touch, but I'm gonna find him. I'm gonna track him down, even if I have to go to Poland myself and hand him a copy of my book. But yeah, that was definitely a fanboy moment when I talked to Anthony Ryan. That was unreal.
Yeah, I mean, my fanboy moment was getting to talk a little bit more with Mark Lawrence, and then just we were practically not just me and him, but on the Discord, he's on there every day. I'm on there every day. So it's still kind of surreal when you think about it, because I remember the first time that I read Prince of Thorns, and I was kind of like, I hadn't started studying stuff to become a writer, I think, or yeah, but I was just I used to have I had the idea of being a writer, of maybe trying to write something since I was like 20, 22 or something. So even though I hadn't like pulled the trigger on it, I remember I started reading Prince of Thorns, and the prose hit me immediately. It was like, okay, yeah. And then there's so many cool ideas, and stuff is so intriguing at the beginning of that book. And the only thing I could think of was, I'm never going to write this good. It was a similar feeling that I had with Game of Thrones, because when I read Game of Thrones and the whole Song of Ice and Fire, because these authors, they inspire you, but I joke that they were kind of like the opposite to me, because I'd already, they already done it. What am I going to do that's better than this? So I still had that feeling of reading Mark Lawrence and saying, I'm never going to write this good. And then, actually talking to him and interacting with him, and seeing him with my book in his hands. He posted the pictures on Twitter and everything. It was, man, that was, I think, the most fanboyish moment that I've had until now. Yeah.
That's awesome. I want to come back to something you said there first. But Steve, what's your fanboy moment since you've been doing this?
There's too many of them. Everyone, I'm surprised whenever I can connect with anyone. So every time I speak with anyone, even PL, we've had several episodes together, but it's still, so I'm, it's still great to connect with you every time. So I mean, every time I get to talk with anyone is my fan, because who am I? So
yeah, I'm honored, man. You set the bar low if talking to me is a big deal, but yeah, no, I and I'm honored, obviously, Steve, to I mean, I'm humbled that you this, just for your edification, for Thiago and A.J, just it started like Steve interviewed me, and then we started talking afterwards, like, hey, I want to start this interview thing. You want to be my co-host? I'm like, well, you should have got the right guy. Like, you want me, right? So but what I wanted to say, though, is that, and I think it affects YouTubers, all of us creatives, right? Is and I want to touch on this, and this is something we've talked about in previous podcasts, is this imposter syndrome thing. When Thiago says, I'm never going to write like Mark Lawrence, we all have that thing in our head, like, oh, I'm never going to write like so-and-so. I'm not, you read their work, and someone's work who you really admire, and you start feeling inadequate about your own writing. You're like, oh man, like, how do you beat that? How do you beat that syndrome? Whether it's you, Steve, whether you're looking at, so you're just going, man, or for the writers here, like, what are your coping mechanisms, or do you feel that? Do you feel that as much? Is it lessening as you gain more followers, more audience, and people start saying more good things about your books? Or like, how does that for you?
I think for me, the imposter syndrome goes away once I get, as bad as it sounds, I get validated by readers and by other authors and stuff. It's like, okay, I haven't written a complete piece of shit. It has some merit to it. Okay. And then it kind of fades away. But like, my author journey didn't start with imposter syndrome, as I'm sure most people's did. Mine started out of pure petty spite, because I didn't like Henry Cavill being cast as Geralt in the Netflix show as Witcher. And I was like, fuck it. I'm going to write something better than Sapkowski's Witcher series. And then like halfway into my book, I'm like, I am not going to do it. I'm writing something terrible. And then apparently I wrote something half decent. So it's definitely not up to the snuff of him. But I mean, that's kind of, I had that arrogance, I guess, going into it. And then I got a reality check as I bit more into the project. But again, like, yeah, when I ever get like with Season Kings, I'm like, man, like, is this too dark, or is this too violent, or is this, is anyone gonna like dig this story? Like, the one character is a 14-year-old girl. Is anyone gonna believe me wrote a believable 14-year-old girl character? And then I've gotten some reviews back, and a lot of them are like, oh yeah, like this is totally like on par. Anna's a great character, well fleshed out. I'm like, okay, so calm down. It's just the self-doubts, self-intrusive thoughts, and I just kind of take the facts, not what I got in my head, which I think is important.
You wanna go, Steve?
Oh no, go ahead.
So yeah, I totally agree with AJ that reviews kind of give you validation. I've told Alan this from he was like my launch day reviewer guy, right? And he really liked the book, and I've told him that every time I feel like imposter syndrome creeping up, I just go and watch his review again. I've watched it tons of times, just to okay, Alan likes it. A lot of people like it. Alan's read a lot of books. I kind of tell myself stuff. He the book isn't going to be for everyone. Is something that I think you need to tell yourself a lot. So yeah, find your crowd is something that really helps me with imposter syndrome. Just try and move on from the negative reviews and focus on the good ones, and that's helped me a lot. And another thing is just kind of putting stuff into a time frame. I think is a way to put it. So we see people's success and we forget, or we haven't seen all of the time that they spent in obscurity before they were successful. Joe Abercrombie, I think I saw an interview saying that his book didn't hit with readers. The mixture of comedy and kind of grimdark didn't hit with readers back in 2005 2006 when it launched, and he actually took some time to become this big author that everyone knows now. So stuff takes time to evolve and to just work, I guess. So imposter syndrome kind of plays on that, and I think you need to give yourself time to breathe a little bit and say, things are gonna be all right, and if they aren't all right, it's just keep doing it. Give yourself time to be successful, I guess.
That's really good. What about you, Steve? Do you ever feel that sense, and how do you, if you do, how do you manage it?
All the time. I've been close to just saying I should just pack up and take my ball and go home. That's happened quite a bit, but there are some people who come back, like commenters or other booktubers, or when someone says, "Hey, I really enjoyed this review," or "Hey, I really like that book you talked about." That's the kind of stuff that keeps me coming back, and I think part of it is what you guys mentioned is some people just won't like you no matter what you do. You can be whoever you are. Someone's just not going to connect with you for whatever reason, whether they don't like what you like, or they don't like your face, or they don't like what you say, or whatever it is. You just have to accept that, like, not everyone's going to be a fan, and that's okay. Not everyone's going to agree with you, but we all like different things, and we can all be friends at the end of the day, so it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then you get 1,000 subscribers, and then you're like, oh my gosh, and then you have a party, and then you're which I think I have to say, for me, I think one of the biggest things that gets me through is my writing friends. And I say that we all have our unique groups and friendships and kind of support networks in and outside of writing. And for me, it's that core group of probably 5 to 10 people and more, or it's broader, but there's a core group that, of these awesome people and awesome writers that, when we just lift each other up, you get a, something bad happens, bad review, or the really good review, or, an award, or, so all through all this stuff. And we keep each other really even keel, not to get too high or too low, not to get too, excited about that really amazing review, or not to get too low about that really bad review, and just kind of just keep plugging away and focus on the writing and the brand. And like I said, I'm blessed to have a really core group, people like Holly Tinsley and Tim Hardy and Bjorn Larson, and Eve Kogochi and RP Lauer. List goes on, but there's a group of people that Sean Bell, Tierra Coughlin, they keep me sane when it comes to this writing stuff, because it can get kind of crazy, right? It can really get kind of crazy. So and people like Steve, right? Now I'm including Steve in that. Steve Taylor from Maybe Two Pages, Lana from Laura Lullabies. You have all these, you make all these connections, and people that start to mean so much to you, right? And they get you through the tough times when you're doubting yourself. And and they're also there to maybe when again, they're a lot of them become beta readers, and they're there to help critique your work and help you improve, and so yeah, very blessed. That's what tends to get me through.
Speaking of Lana,
oh my gosh, Lana, we love you. How you doing?
Hope you're having a good day. And Chris says, imposter syndrome often never goes away, regardless of the level of success. Even successful people often feel like they are the one step away from being found out.
Yeah. And I think there's being a little insecure, and there's imposter syndrome, which is something that never goes away. But I think if you let your insecurities kind of evolve, it'll become imposter syndrome. So that's why I think it's good to have like anchors to keep you tethered to real life. I'm a person who my brain keeps trying to tell me people are going to find out all the time, and these positive things, they really help. They really help.
Yeah.
So it's just where you direct your focus, I guess.
Even being on things like this, like I keep what happens. It is not about compare yourself to other people, or looking at someone saying oh my gosh, woe is them. It's about you realize that there's authors that would do anything to appear on a podcast, would do anything to have a YouTuber do a review of their book, would do anything to have a certain amount of reviews on Goodreads, or to win a writing award, or like there's all these milestones that a lot of us experience, and you think, oh my gosh, but I'm comparing, compare yourself to this person. But meanwhile, someone's looking up to you saying, oh my gosh, I'd love to be AJ or Thiago, or you know what I mean? Like, and you don't realize it until you start talking to more and more people, and you start interacting with more people, and you realize that and that also comes with the responsibility, I think, to be even more supportive and to give back more and more, because you remember, I remember specifically Twitter, man. Like I remember coming on Twitter and I'm like, who am I? No one knows who I am. Who's gonna follow me? I'm following all these huge writers. I'm thinking, oh well, maybe one day, they might follow me. But then, and you're putting all these tweets, no one's responding, like, because like nobody knows who you are. And then, but eventually, you find your network, you make connections, you build genuine friendships, and it's amazing the friendships you can build virtually, right, without ever seeing the person now. And like eventually, you find your your tribe, and you start, and then you take off. But it takes time, right? And everybody branches off in different ways. But yeah, like. At first, it's like, wow, you publish your book, you're thinking, who's going to buy my book? Like you just don't know what your audience is going to be, right? And, there's surprising people that buy your book, right? People that you don't expect to buy your book are like, I really liked your book. And you look at the kind of books they're reading. Sometimes I look at their TV, I'm like, you like my book? Really? That doesn't seem, congruous with what you normally write, but, it happens.
Yeah. And I think the point there is social media is really cool to just I mean, I've seen people say Twitter is just a place where people argue and stuff, but that isn't the case with book Twitter. And it's just such a really cool place to make friends. And I think selling your book is almost it's almost kind of secondary, because you meet people, you talk to people, and eventually they will get to your book. You don't even need to scream about your book when you're meeting all these people, because eventually they'll find out about it. So yeah, it's super cool to just have this network of supportive people around you.
And, AJ, when we talked before, when Oathbreaker has been released, and you had mentioned listening to a lot of music while you wrote Oathbreaker, do you have a soundtrack, or do you have like a Spotify playlist for the new book?
I thought about creating one, but just for people to listen to and get through the madness. But one, I don't know how to do that. So that's probably got to learn about that. But I mean, I'm not against it, but like I if people want to know what I listen to when I write the book, basically put on the Witcher soundtrack on loop, and then you basically got like from the games. That's basically what I write to, and then I'll just pick a song based on the movement. Like when there's a boss fight and there's a really intense battle in my book, I'll put that on and I'll hammer out that scene. Or if it's more, casual, it'll be a more casual song, and that's is what it is. But music is a huge part in my writing because it definitely helps me capture a moment and how I write, because I feel like if I don't write with music, the scene just sucks. But that's just me.
What about you, Thiago? Do you listen to music while you write?
Normally not while I write. I've listened a lot to music before I write, and I actually do listen to music for battle scenes or really emotional scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Those are like the only two moments that I put music on, and man, does it make a difference to have those epic battle music, just tracks just in the background. Never like stuff with lyrics to me. It's always instrumental, like something you'd find in the Lord of the Rings movie or something. But just having that just really brings you into the moment. So battle scenes almost I've become kind of like it's become almost like a crutch, so I use this, and I have like 10 to 15 songs maybe, and it's just like on repeat that I use for battle music. And then the really emotional moments when someone's died or something like that, I have this other kind of emotional playlist. The star of that playlist is Adagio in D minor, which I've talked with Thomas Howard Riley about a lot. It's just, man, that track to me is just the perfect emotional track. So I do for that, but I've started to do that a lot more now for the second book. But for A Touch of Light, I used to listen to maybe 20 minutes of Rage Against the Machine before jumping in. Like Sleep Down in the Fire was probably the song I most listened to throughout the year that I was writing that. So yeah, but the lyrics kind of screw with the words in my mind, so I need to turn it off when I start writing.
And AJ, with your background in music, I need some metal suggestions, because I've been trying to find new metal bands. I wanted to pick your brain. Are you familiar with Bellwitch?
Bellwitch, yeah. Like again,
I need some suggestions that are in that vein, because I really love that album.
Bellwitch. Remind me who's the band again?
Mirror Reaper, or I think it's Mirror Reaper, the album. Bellwitch.
Oh, Bellwitch. Okay, I was thinking the album. I don't know, man. Of course, big metal guy, loves talking about metal. As soon as he gets asked a metal question, brain just is dead. Nothing. I'll shoot you a message, Steve, because right now I'm just drawing a complete blank.
Okay.
I'm sure, like, as soon as we're done talking, I'll just be like, "Oh, there's this band. Why couldn't you think of that on the spot, AJ? You idiot!"
Yeah. It's usually the way it happens.
Yeah, but no, yeah, it's definitely good stuff.
Well, sorry, Steve, go ahead.
I was just going to ask Magic the Gathering, what if he still plays, or what colors he likes to play, or what's his go-to?
Powder spells, man. I've been in love with blue cards since I started. I think I started playing Magic I don't remember. Maybe when I was 10, Urza's Legacy had just come out or something. And I had this counter burn deck, which was just blue and red cards, right? Counter spell and lightning bolt. And I'm a big modern fan, the modern format fan, because I get to play counter spells and lightning bolts. So yeah. I honestly haven't played a lot of Magic in the past few months because my focus has been fully into writing, and I really want to rapid release my series. I want to have it wrapped up by next year, all 4 books. So by the end of next year. So yeah, I'm really focused on that. And I have a ton of really good friends in Magic, and whenever I can, I try to jump onto Magic Online, or even just watch a stream, kind of. Even if I can play, at least I can watch other people play and keep up with the format. Uh, but no, Magic's been like a pillar of my life since I started playing it, man. It'll never go away, and I don't want it to go away. So, but it's kind of like on and off, because of time constraints. But man, the fact that I have griffins in my book was inspired a lot by Warcraft and by the Azorius, which are a kind of guild in one of the Magic sets. And there's this card called Riot Control, which the image is just a griffin kind of crashing down into the middle of a bunch of people. And was like, I'm gonna have griffins in my book because I love that artwork. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to ask, so who are some of your go-to writers or writers that you're identifying that are like up and coming, or in the indie scene, or traditionally published, or just period, like, or your writers that are your inspirations that you kind of really influenced your writing or pattern yourself after? Who are some of those authors for you guys?
Thiago, feel free to go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So it's funny because every time I talk about my inspirations, I don't think my writing resembles the writing of those authors, but I actually think inspirations are authors you pull little bits from, and then you just kind of create your own thing. So the main ones for me are obviously Mark Lawrence. I've talked about that a lot. I was really inspired by Joe Abercrombie as well. Just the way that he does characters, and just that gritty tone, and the way that I really like Joe's repetition. The way that say one thing about Logan Nine Fingers, or body floating by the docks, or all of those little kind of catchphrases, as they call them, that just he sprinkles throughout the book. And if you're paying attention, you see that he's repeating a lot of that stuff. So I really like that kind of style. And I remember trying to do something similar in the first draft of A Touch of Light, and my editor was like, this repetition just isn't working, man. It's just, and he was right, So I toned it down a lot, but a little bit, I think, still there if you look at it. Apart from those two, I really like. Especially the fifth season by N.K. Jemisin. I was really inspired by that book, and the total concepts that she uses there. And yeah, I think that one was big, especially for writing the clans in my book, which feel really different from the culture of the domain. And finally, I guess the way that Patrick Rothfuss does world building is something I really love. The way that he just puts details into plain sight, and he doesn't call your attention to them. So those are my main ones, and you have to kind of pay attention, and it gives the book reread value. So I really like that. Just offering people a product of if you read it once, you can read it again. You're still gonna pick up a few things. So yeah.
For me, just a quick detour. I had to do a Google search because I was absolutely driving myself bonkers. Pallbearer is a good band, like Bellwitch, Lysis, Samothrace, and Esoteric. I'll send a message in this private chat here, Steve.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I was like, man, why can't I think of any bands? And then so I had to do a quick Google search, and finally they're all starting to click, and I'm like, there we go. So But yeah, as terms of authors, obviously Anthony Ryan and Andrew Spikowski, anything they put out is gold. But in terms of indie authors who I really like kind of look up to and idolize or like respect, PL's up there, obviously. Holly Tinsley, she's amazing. Sean Crow, who I consider a good friend because he sent me covers and I've sent him covers. He's currently reading Season of Kings. He's wrote Godless Lands, and I think he's on Spiffbo this year for Valhalla Steel, his like fantasy / sci-fi cyberpunk book.
Yep.
And like I read it and it's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, he's absolutely amazing. And then there's so many amazing indie authors like Ryan Cahill. He's just phenomenal. And he's such an easy to talk to guy, and he just absolutely, he said, and like, again, I sent him a copy of Season of Kings and he was like, totally. He's busy, but like, he says he'll try to get to it. So obviously, and then Zamil with a Gunmetal Gods, he's huge, up and comer. He's a big swinger in the indie author. So I look up to all those people, and it's just, and there's so many more that I can't think of on the spot, but like,
yeah, I can compliment that list because I didn't get to the indie author part because my mind is a sieve. So I kind of the question drains out of it. But all of those you said, and Ryan also helped me a lot, which is talking and watching his interviews, and he's always open to talk about a lot of stuff. So yeah, Ryan was really great. But there are also a couple of Spiffle finalists from last year. Crystal Matar and Ella McRae.
Oh yeah,
and they're just awesome people. And I've talked with DWS a lot. He finished a trilogy recently. Rob J. Hayes is always super friendly. Who else? And I have a lot of authors that I talk to in all my Discord groups. The guys on Mark Lawrence's channel always help me a lot. Joshua Shue, Kian Ardelin has a book in Spitball this year as well. It's one of the most intriguing titles. It's the fantastically underwhelming epic of a dead wizard and an average bard.
I saw that.
Yeah. And Shauna Lawless also is The Children of Gods and Fighting Men. Is going to come out in September. So yeah, we're always talking online, and I've always put myself into a corner when I say names because I'm sure I'm going to forget one, and the person's going to say, "Man, you didn't.
Yeah.
How did you forget me?" But my mind is a sieve, so sorry.
Oh, no apologize. I feel the same way. Like, I mean, there's so many. I have to give shouts. I mean, I could obviously we could all talk for hours about. I have to give shouts out to people like Jenny Wirtz, traditionally published, but she's just an icon. Christian Cameron, another iconic, writer. Indies, most all the ones you mentioned. And more, E.G. Radcliffe is a phenomenal writer. Rob Hayes, you mentioned. There are so many. Clayton Snyder is uber talented. Michael Fletcher, these guys are like mind-bogglingly talented, right? Just totally phenomenal. And there's so many more, but like again, you could go on and on, but those are just a handful of the amazing writers out there that just
Yeah, Ben Galley and Jim Wilborn are two that I forgot that were gonna kill me if I. Sorry, but yeah, man, Ben has been so helpful. I chat with him a lot about marketing stuff and all that, and it's just so cool to get these people with experience to help you, and Jim's kind of like one of the guys who's on like the path with me, and we share our experiences of all the stuff that we're doing. So yeah, it's been really cool interacting with these guys. Yeah,
and it's hard to be an author, period, and to be an independent author is just it's a real niche, unique the role that I think I couldn't even. If someone describe what it's like to be an indie author, that would take me a long time to adequately explain, right? Because there's so many aspects of being in the author that you're responsible for. And there's so much more, I think, again, like I said, that level of engagement, interaction with your readers and with co-authors and with, YouTubers and bloggers and, everyone in the community. I think it's definitely taken over my life, I'd say, in a good way. You know what I mean? And I keep saying, well, I can't take on anything else. And then I take on something else. And then there's writing, right? Yeah. Then there's writing, you actually get your books out. But I don't regret a thing, and I'm having a blast. And, and that's where I have to especially thank people like Steve, who's given me this opportunity to, be a co-host and another platform that people get to know me on. So, but sorry, Steve, I think you have a question that you were going with?
Oh, no, I was going to ask both of our AJ and Thiago if they have any favorite family recipes. It's one of my favorite questions for guests.
I do. I don't know if there's a single name for it, but my surname is Abdalla, so I really like Middle Eastern cuisine. And my grandmother's always had this dish, which is just stuffed grape leaves. It's grape leaves with rice and seasoned kind of minced meat, and the seasoning is what makes it special. And it's like it goes into the pressure cooker, and it's just awesome to eat with bread and stuff. It's man.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up on that. It's my favorite dish.
For me, it's like, I love all my mom's cooking. She's an amazing cook for what she does. But I'm from Saskatchewan in Canada. For people that don't know, it's a very big Ukrainian population. Like, there's a lot of Ukrainian people in Saskatchewan. So, and I've had girlfriends and friends who have all been from a strong Ukrainian background. And my God, their pierogies and cabbage rolls will just knock your socks off. If people go just say, "Oh, I'll make your pierogies or I'll make you cabbage rolls," and I always have to ask, "Are you Ukrainian?" Because if you're not, I don't want them, because they won't match the snuff. They're just not good enough. There's something about those people that just know how to make them, and they're just amazing. They're just top tier. I can't get enough of it.
Nice. What about you, PL? Do you have a favorite?
Yeah, I love all cuisines. I love all foods, Ukrainian food, pierogies, Middle Eastern food, Lebanese food. Oh my gosh, shawarma, that's stuff to die for, right? Tabbouleh, like those are things that I love. My Caribbean food, my island food, jerk chicken, curry goat, rice and peas, roti, those are all things that I actually, actually my wife is, I mentioned this on my interview with Steve, my wife is actually cooking, it's just called pepper pot, and really it's just a bunch. It's really just a stew that goes on forever. You just keep adding stuff that you boil it in the slow cooker over and over with all these sauces, and it just gets more fall off the bone, marinated, and you just keep adding more beef and adding more sauces, and and over the course of a few days, and that's one of my favorites, pepper pot. I'd have to say, and so tomorrow I'm looking forward to some pepper pot.
Making me hungry.
Yeah.
We had been talking about recently as subgenres, and I wondered from an author's perspective, are subgenres, does it make it easier to target your audience, or does it make it harder because there's so many of them, because there's more and more subgenres? So is it good, or is it negative?
Steve, you know where this is leading? This is leading to grimdark. It's all going back to grimdark, right? Everything leads back to grim. So I'll shut up, but you know where we're going with this.
There's like progressive fantasy now. There's lit RPG. There's a ton of subgenres. So I wondered, does it make it easier to target your readers, or does that limit your audience when you target that specific subgenre?
For me personally, I think it does both. I mean that's not a very exciting answer, but I think that's the most honest one, is that you get people who are like, I love grimdark and people love dark fantasy. They'll gravitate to your book if you label it dark fantasy. And then you get the people obviously who say, "Oh, dark fantasy, grimdark, I don't want to read that." So, they'll think Michael Fletcher and Joe Abercrombie and stuff, and immediately just be put off with that, when really there's a sliding scale. I think Mark Lawrence actually posted something in I'm in one of his Facebook groups, and he's I think probably posted in the Discord. I'm not in the Discord, so Thiago will have to add it. But it's basically titles of different books, and the bigger the title, the more grimdark they are. And
Mark has a blog post for everything, and one of
Okay.
his blog posts is that scale.
Yeah.
It's on his blog. Yeah.
So I mean, I think subgenres definitely help you in some cases, and they'll sometimes hurt you. But I think, like with the help with you, Steve, and other book bloggers and booktubers, it definitely, I think, opens your eyes, because again, like people might just be scared by the label of like grimdark or whatever, or like lit RPG, and not know what they're getting into. And then you hear like a personal testimony who kind of breaks it down with or without spoilers. You kind of know, okay, maybe this is up my alley. And so definitely you guys do the heavy lifting and try and break down those subgenres that are blocking people to come in.
Yeah, my answer is the same. I think it's both, because I think labels help direct people, but they don't do a good job of explaining everything that's in the book, because they're only a label, right? They're not even meant to do that. But yeah, I mean, I've seen people say my book isn't that dark. I've seen people say my book is really dark. My editor wanted me to add a little levity in the book because he said it was too dark. So it I think it depends. If I were, on Mark Lawrence's grimdark scale, I don't think I'd be too grimdark. Maybe mid to low, I think. But again, maybe I'm just used to reading darker stuff, and other people will find my stuff really dark. So I mean, labels can help in a sense, and I'm sorry. I don't know if you can hear my kid in the background. Sorry. So yeah, labels do help direct people, but yeah, at a certain point, you got to pick up the book and read it, I think.
Yeah.
Again,
No, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say Ryan Kale that wrote Of Blood and Fire. Me and him had a talk about this exact subject, and he's like, he's kind of to paraphrase him, put words in his mouth. He's trying to invent this new genre called grim heart, where it's dark, but it has these wholesome moments. And I don't know, I think more, I think definitely Oathbreaker falls into grim heart rather than completely grim dark, whereas maybe my next one not so much. Maybe it's a little bit grim dark, but I don't know. I think that's where it's nice, because like I think only a certain amount of people can do the actual grim dark, like the Mark Lawrences, the Joe Abercrombies, the Michael Fletchers can really go into that deep dark waters and pull it off. Anna Smith Smark's another one that can just absolutely pull it off and be amazing at it.
Yeah, see, I told you, Steve, the conversation was coming. It was all about grimdark. That's what I told you it was gonna, because I think for the three of us specifically, I think, and I was that person who I didn't think I wrote grimdark until people kept telling me, no, your book is grimdark or it's dark fantasy, and we talk about as writers that while we have ownership for our work, once we write it and it's published, it doesn't belong to us anymore. It belongs to the reader and their interpretations and how they perceive our books. So unfortunately, if people start saying en masse that your book is grimdark, guess what? It kind of is, based on what they're saying. And the only thing that can change that perception is if you say it's a series and you write the next book and it's different from that, right? And it's interesting that AJ raises what Ryan said. And I'm sure you guys have heard of Hope Punk. So that's another, that people are, now I believe that people are actually within the subgenre question that Steve brought up. I think people are actually trying to, out of grimdark, create these levels and layers of grimdark. So yeah, it's grimdark, but it's not really, and this is why. And I have more hope and more optimism, or I have this, or and I think, but again, like I said, I think, when it comes to subgenres of subcategories within fantasy, I think a lot of it now is going to be defined as grimdark and non-grimdark, like other categories. But the big kind of big elephant, or whatever you want to call it in the room, is your book grimdark, and that's how a lot of people, I think, will make their buying decisions, as AJ kind of hinted. How much how dark, psychologically dark in terms of violence, disturbing themes is your book, and then is that going to steer my buying choices? Because I think that's what's happening a lot right now. What I see from a lot of chats, that's the big discussion is, and it's funny you referenced Mark Lawrence in that that blog post where all of the, he has a sliding scale of grim darkness, and Michael Fletcher's at the top, right? Beyond Redemption is the book that's at the top, right?
Yeah.
And what was really fascinating is that I actually, Steve and I both read Sarah Schwarn's book, her first book, Seraphina's Lament. Of course, he has it there because Steve has all the books. And at first, I was like, oh, I think it's darker than Michael Fletcher's. And Steve, who reads more grimdark than I consider him much more a connoisseur of dark, towards the horror scale than I am. And he's like, and then it's funny, I watched the video, it's like, maybe PL has something there, maybe it is kind of dark, right? And it's just, but you don't know till you read it, right? And you don't, and everybody's gonna have their own impressions. Like for some people, oh, Michael Fletcher's not that dark. Now this is dark, you know what I mean? So it's just, I find it fascinating, right? I find it fascinating.
Like I've had people, like, to kind of talk about myself here, I've had people come up to me and say, oh, your book's not dark, it's just violent. Like there's no psychological, darkness that you get in the Fletchers and Abercrombies, that psychological, I guess, darkness. And then I've also had people say, like my parents, my grandparents, be like, why is it so dark? Why is it not optimistic at all? And I'm like, So, I mean, it definitely is to the reader's discretion. And so, but again, like PL said, it's not your book once you release it anymore. It's the populations, and what they define you as is kind of what you are.
So AJ, after they read Oathbreaker, did you stop getting invites to family get-togethers?
Yeah, it's kind of weird because like my grandpa is a very, very traditional, salt of the earth guy and like optimistic. Like he's like the man just never has a negative thought. And he said, "Oh, I'm going to read Oathbreaker." I'm like, "Oh my God, you're going to hate it." And he actually liked it. And he's like, I really like Mario. And I'm like, I have a feeling you like Mario because he's kind of the optimistic guy out of, he's the innocent guy who's not jaded and angry and all that. So, but I mean, my family obviously supports me still, and that's great. I didn't get what's the word? Anyways, they get disowned. The family. Disowned, thank you. Yeah. Brain fart. Yeah, I didn't get disowned from the family for writing a super dark book or anything like that. But it's cool because, like, again, like all my cousins and everyone wants to talk to me, like, "Oh my God, you wrote a book," and they want to ask me a whole bunch of questions, and I'm kind of shy when people talk to me in public about my book. I'm like, yeah, it's okay.
You reminded me of when I first talked to my mom about my book. Yeah. And she was like, "Do people die?" I said, "Yeah." "Do a lot of people die?" I was like, "Yeah." And the rest of it was just, why? I didn't have an answer, I didn't know where to take the conversation from there. So it's like,
yeah.
I don't know. You should read it if you want to. If you don't, it's okay. I understand. But yeah.
Like for those who've read Oathbreaker, for me, I mean, I'm just gonna say the character's name, Hamish, and then my dad basically just texted me like at 10 p.m. at night. He's like, "Why?" And I'm just like, "Can I have context to this?" And then the next text was Hamish. I'm like, "Oh, okay, I understand where you are now." And then, so.
Yeah, I think again, Thiago's book. I'm unfortunately I'm going to hold off now until after SPFEO and see what his fate is. If he's going to the finals, then I'll probably get a chance to read, hopefully. But with AJ's book, because I can tell you, man, like I believe that your books do have that psychological darkness, definitely, and that so much of the book is about Mario's disenfranchisement and obviously cynicism that escalates because, like you said, he's realizing that this hallowed world of knighthood and chivalry, it's somewhat of a fallacy, right? When he gets out there and sees the world, and I love that. And that's violence is one thing. Like I always say that I never aspired to write great battle scenes, right? Although I think battle scenes are cool. I didn't think that would be one of my strengths, and I felt maybe the world building, I think, is my strength. But then people go, "Oh, your battle scenes are awesome. Like, I take it as a big compliment, but you don't look at that as a strength of yours. But your battle scenes are phenomenal, AJ. But I think your real strength is the psychological darkness of and I believe, and Oathbreaker is a great book. I think Season of Kings is a step up in terms of your character work, because these characters are extremely complex, right? I can't spoil anything, but when you get to Egbert, like the king in this book, like he's a complex dude.
Yeah.
Right? Like very complex. But that's the stuff that I love about grimdark is the psychological nuances, the complexities, the morally gray characters. Like that's the stuff that attracts me to books like AJ's. And I'm sure based on the elevator pitch, Thiago's again was on my TBR for quite a while, but now hopefully, like I said, I'm wishing you best of luck with SPFEO, and maybe I'll get to read it as a finalist book. So
Yeah. I hope so, man. I'm super excited about that. So yeah.
How do you guys feel about you've been SPFEO, AJ, so have I. You're now I'm currently a judge now. Mark Lawrence has created this thing that just seems to be getting bigger and bigger and more hyped and more like it's becoming essentially the premier indie fantasy award / contest, and it goes on for a year, and as soon as it's over the next one starts, and it's really unique in that there's been a lot of authors now that have really gotten huge exposure and acclaim just from being in a SPFEO, much less getting to semifinal round or finalist round or winning it. And there's authors that are, and if that's your thing, and I know Mark always emphasizes that that's not the nirvana, but if you aspire to get noticed by a big trad publisher, it's a great way to do it. Some people have gotten contracts, book deals off the heels of these, contests, as you know. They're well documented. Jonathan French's and the Dennis Madisons and the Justin Lee Andersons and all these authors. Like so.
Josiah Bancroft as well.
Josiah Bancroft, yeah, tons. Now it's becoming a thing where now we have to start thinking about how many, right? So how what do you think about this whole SPFEO thing and the fact that the entire fantasy, especially the indie fantasy world, seems to be glued on this thing, and the hype and all the different chat rooms and groups and discords and sub chat, like what do you think about this whole thing?
From an author standpoint, it's great because it gets your book in front of so many people. I mean, people, like when I'm looking at it, I'm scrolling through each blogger's list of who has what book, and I'm like, that's a cool title. I'll Google it and I read the blurb. I'm like, I'll buy that book. That seems incredibly interesting, and I'm sure other people do the same thing. And then just from a fan standpoint, it's amazing because you're bringing all these books together, and it's kind of like playoff. Like I'm going to bring it out to the NFL because I'm a big NFL fan. It's kind of like playoff football. Any given Sunday, anything can happen. It's not like the big names enter and the big names are going to win every year, when there's surprises every year about people who get in. And, like this year's Spiff Bowl winner, Spiff Bowl 7, I can't remember who it was off the top of my head. Is not the person.
Rain and Ruin.
Rain and Ruin.
Yeah. Fantasy romance, right? Yeah.
I did not think they were my underdog, if anything. I thought, again, it was going to be Crystal Matar or Holly Tinsley or the mad child of Michael Fletcher and Clayton Snyder put together. And I thought for sure those would be like the big heavy hitters. But again, like it's any given Sunday night, and it's so entertaining to watch. You go in, every couple weeks or every day, you're looking at seeing who reviewed what. And it's so awesome to see that, as a book as the book community has something like this, and fantasy has something like this that you can actually, I guess, look forward to. It's kind of like our playoffs. You'll kind of want to see what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, it's spectacular. I think it's such an again, what Mark built here, it's an incredible accomplishment because first of all, it's free to sign up. So it's just like free exposure. 10 blogs working all year round. That's just amazing. The amount of work that's put into that. I'm thankful just for it existing. It's
Mhm.
like everyone, the work that they put into it. And I think as a reader, it's amazing as well, because like it or not, indie fantasy still has a little bit of that stigma. Not fantasy, indie books. It's just, oh man, it might not be as good as a trad book. So it really helps just show the quality of indie books, if nothing else, because these are books that are getting reviewed by big blogs, and they're out there, and once you get to the finals, like the amount of hype that you get for those finalists and semifinalists, it's amazing, man. It really is. It really is. Just as an author and as a reader, you're set for years. If I mean, unless you people read 300 books a year, but if you read, like, I don't know, 20 books a year, 30 books a year, you're set. You can have new stuff all the time. So,
Yeah.
man, it's awesome. It really is great.
Yeah, like
And
I
I'm
mean,
I'm I'm a big NFL fan as well.
yeah.
So am I.
So it's
I think Steve is as
yeah, yeah,
well. So yeah.
yeah.
I mean, like again, if you would have told me about this before I published a book, I would have called bullshit on it. Like, oh, you mean everyone's doing this for free out of the kindness of their hearts and dedicating, months and years or a year basically to like read other people's books and judge them and for no compensation? I would be, yeah, there's no way. So that Spiffball has kind of restored my, sense of humanity in people. I'm like, oh my god, people are just going out of the way because they love books, and that's just more the book community we talked about at the beginning of the show. It's such a wholesome community, such an amazing community to be a part of, and it's just kind of restored my faith in humanity quite a bit about being a part of it and observing it.
And Chris Mohan says it's amazing to get 300 fresh voices to explore every year.
Mm-hmm.
Steve, what do you think about? What are your impressions about SBFBO and this hype thing, this hype machine that you know?
Well, it's great that, well, for me, because I'll often Google who entered, and I'll search through the blurbs, and I'll try and find. I did that a few months ago, beginning of the year. I went through and just ordered a bunch of books that, whether they were in the finals or the semifinals or not, if they appealed to me, I would just order them. But I think it's great to get exposure. But for me, I can never be a judge because I don't want to wait to read these books. I want to read them now, so I can't be a judge. But I respect everyone who does take the time to do that. I'm too impatient. I want to read. I want to get to the stuff. I want to read A Touch of Light now. So I'm not. I don't want to wait. But it's great that so many people pitch in for something like this and spend their time doing it. And like AJ said, it's great to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a real honor. It's a real honor to be a judge. I feel an immense honor, and of course, an immense responsibility to and I think for those of you who know me, I mean, my thing is that I understand, I've been cut in SBFBO. I know what it feels like. There's only gonna be one winner, so everybody except for one book is actually getting cut at the end. But my thing as a blogger, and what I think we all try to do as bloggers, YouTubers, or people who just like reading, reviewing books, is I think for the most part, most of us are trying to, as AJ said, shine a light on these books and deliver a positive and overall accentuate the positives, right? I mean, there will be critiques and criticisms, but really focus on the positive, because most of these books, largely, there are so many positives, and the difference between a semifinalist and a finalist, or a book that doesn't make the semifinals, it's really by very small degrees, man. And it's also subjective, right? AJ's semifinalist might not be Thiago's, might not be mine. Like, it's all subjective. So you have to really give kudos to all 300 writers for putting in these books. And I can say the caliber is so high overall. Like, again, it just, so much of it is luck. Depends on the blog you get, and if you got another blog, you might have gone all the way. It's just, but meanwhile, this blog, or this particular blogger, like, it's really random that way. So,
and it falls down, like, again, to build on what you said, PL, about luck. It also falls in the block you get too. Cause like, I mean, I don't want to sound bitter here, but again, like, I got put in the block where I was going up against in the first round, Clayton Snyder and Michael Fletcher. I was like, oh man, I'm not going to beat them. And then, so it is what it is. I mean, like, I didn't get eviscerated. So, I mean, I take that as a win. So, I mean, it is good, a bit of luck because again, it's not a walk in the park competition for anyone. It's stiff competition, like I said, and it's like any given Sunday for football. It's anyone can win it, and it's hard competition, and like you said, it's very subjective. But the bloggers, so
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. My blog had Clayton Snyder, Mike Fletcher, Rob Hayes. Like,
Yeah.
some of the top indie fantasy, known indie, and some of them didn't make it out, right? And so, like you said, it's any given Sunday, and there were some marvelous books that were very much under the radar books that did really well in the competition, as we all know, and have gone on to be much more widely recognized and get a lot of acclaim. And that's the glory of it all, right? That so. But anyways, I know we've been chatting for our.
Can I just say that before we go this year, the books that before we got, man, that's a stacked group.
Well,
So,
I'm
man,
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's so hard because again, there are all such high quality books, and I said the difference between someone making or not make it is going to be just by these subjective degrees that you have to pick someone to advance and someone has to not advance, and that's hard, and it's hard on the bloggers, and again, we no one enjoys cutting books, right? No one enjoys. You wish everybody could you wish you had 300 finalists, but in my mind and a lot of bloggers' minds, there are 300 finalists. Just the attempt and just putting your book out there and taking that chance, and like I said, the fact that the caliber is so high, it really feels like it's you're dealing with 300 finalist caliber books, and now you have to pick from there. So it is, like I said, it's a tough thing, but I consider a real privilege to do that. So, but yeah, once again, I know you've been so grateful with your generous with your time, guys. We really appreciate it. All the world, and it's been awesome. Before we start to wrap things up, can you please tell us, AJ and Thiago, what's the best place to get a hold of you? What are your preferred social media platforms? Your website for your books. Where do you prefer people buy your books? Do you sell your books out of your directly off your website, or is it Amazon or some other platform? Like, can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, I guess I'll start it off. You can basically contact me anywhere. If you find me online, shoot me a message. I'll probably answer. But like Twitter, obviously at Rettger22, my last name 22. My website's www.ajrettger.com. You can buy Oathbreaker and pre-order Season of Kings on Amazon. You can get signed copies of Oathbreaker from my website. I'll eventually have signed copies of Season King for sale on my website as well that I'll ship out. I think because I don't understand how Amazon publishing works, that you can actually buy Season of Kings right now. And I got to try and fix that because it's not released right now. I think you can actually order with a messed up cover, of course, because it's going to be the one that I try to fix myself. So it's probably going to be a really bad cover. So maybe you want to hold off. But I think you can actually buy it right now because I think someone ordered it. And I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that was live. I'm going to have to fix that.
You can pull it down.
Yeah, I'll have to pull it down tonight and then resubmit it and get everything ready. But as of right now, how it stands, I think you can kind of get it a steal ahead of the release. But that's, we're sure you can get in contact with me and get my books.
Cool. So I'm on most social media platforms, but the ones that I check more frequently are Twitter and Discord. If you message me on Twitter or Discord, I'll probably answer you like really, really fast because I'm pretty obsessive about checking my notifications on those things. So yeah, you can buy my books on Amazon or probably anywhere that sells books. Except for the ebook is Kindle exclusive, but the rest are probably everywhere. For Such a Light, for A Prelude to Ashes, it's my newsletter, kind of like newsletter only ebook, and then the physical copies are available on Amazon. So yeah, you can find my website at www.Abdalla.com, the T and then my surname. and then you can get information about me there. There's a really cool map in high res there as well. If someone's confused about where people are going in my world, you can just have it open there. It's I really like that map, and so I put it up on my website. And yeah, I think that's it. And my Twitter account, my Instagram account, they all have my link tree for all the links if you want to follow me. So yeah.
Steve, what about you? Where can we get a hold of you best?
Twitter, of course. Steve Talks Books. I am on Vero. I use Vero for kind of my personal stuff, and also pagechewing.com. We have a forum with the calendar and blogs and videos and all kinds of other stuff. So those are the best places to find me.
And PL Stuart, again, www.plstewart.com. That's the John Kingdom site. Everything you wonder about the books, what's coming out. I do author interviews called 6 Elemental Author Interviews, so written interviews. And of course, for Steve and I both, you can find our stuff published potentially on Before We Go blog, where post reviews, Goodreads. I have a link tree as well. Twitter is by far where I'm the most active. I have Instagram and Facebook, but Twitter is really, you can get hold of me easy on Twitter. My DMs are open. You want to talk writing, you want to know something about me or my books, you need something, give me a shout. My DMs are open. I'm always here to chat to and hopefully assist if I can in any way. So
awesome. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks again to AJ and Thiago for spending the time with us. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much for having us. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll probably speak for Thiago here, but it was an absolute pleasure to be on the show.
Yeah, it was super fun. I always feel like these chats, like they feel like 20 minutes, right? They go by so fast. So yeah, I just keep chatting with you guys. So anytime you like to have me on, just let me know.
Yeah, we're so honored to have you.
Chat. Yeah, thanks.
Honored to have both of you. Yeah, no, it's amazing. Thank you so much. It's the guests such as you that make this so rewarding for Steve and I, and make this such a phenomenal, podcast. So we'll just keep it rolling.
Yeah, awesome.
Thanks to everyone in the chat who came by to and I hope everyone has a great week. Conquer Monday, conquer the week. So everyone have a good week. For everybody.
Right. Bye.
Awesome.